Number 7, I think, tonight. Last Friday we have discussed what are the main reasons for intellectuals and scholars, scientists, psychologists, historians and philosophers to appreciate Buddhism last Friday. Tonight, how far it is true that there are no dogmas and superstitious belief in Buddhism? And this is one of the reasons why intellectuals appreciate Buddhism. Otherwise, they never appreciate. Now, I am going to justify or point out that there are no dogmas and superstitions in Buddhism. But when we define the word Buddhism, we cannot say there are no dogmas in Buddhism. There are. Then you have to differentiate the Buddha's teaching and Buddhism. In the Buddha's teaching, we cannot find dogmas and superstitious belief. But in Buddhism, there are so many. In fact, when we observe unbiasedly how so-called Buddhists practice this religion in various countries. Let us start from India. India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, then Malaysia. Then go to Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan. Then Tibet, Mongolia, Siberia, then again in India, Assam, Bhutan, Sikkim. How they practice this religion, I have seen. I have visited almost every Buddhist country. Therefore, I cannot say there are no dogmas or superstitious belief in Buddhism. In the name of Buddhism, or by using Buddhism as their religion, they perform various kinds of traditional practices, maintain certain belief due to various reasons. First, we must try to understand why people want to maintain dogmas and superstitious belief. In the West, still there are, but not like in Asian countries. We can say only 25% in the West. But here, in this part of the world, people have 75% superstitious belief and dogmas. The main reason is scientific education. Who introduced those beliefs and practices? Introduced by our forefathers. That means primitive people, few thousands years ago, according to their way of thinking. imagination, the fear, suspicion that they maintained in their minds. Later, when they started to practice religion, they have incorporated all their traditional beliefs into religion. They cannot do away with or cannot get rid of those beliefs what they had. Let us take few examples. When Buddhism was introduced to Tibet, they had their own way of worshipping and performing various religious rites and rituals. And they had some sort of occultism, mysticism, and supernatural powers or belief. Later they have incorporated all those beliefs into Buddhism. And today they practice Buddhism as Tibetan Buddhism. But when you refer to the basic teachings of the Buddha, you cannot find many of those practices and beliefs that they maintain as Buddhism. Since people have a lot of superstitious belief and fear, they believe there must be some sort of power in them. That is our belief, and we promote them. And let us find out the nature of Chinese Buddhism. Buddhism was introduced to China about 600 or 700 years after the Buddha. Before that, they never heard anything about the Buddha. When Buddhism was introduced to China, they had the ancient human civilizations on this earth. They say more than 5,000 years old civilization. And first time in the history they have discovered many things in China. Then Confucianism and Taoism, these two religious teachers who introduced these beliefs and practices are contemporary. That means not far away from the Buddha, only 30 years and 80 years difference. So when you study Confucius' teachings based on morals and ethics and filial pieties, most of them are related to the Buddha's teaching because they are very common teaching based on humanism. That is why scholars are not ready to accept Confucianism and Taoism as religions. In Confucianism, you can find more morals and ethics and human values. Taoism, more rites and rituals and mysticism. They never had the idea of rebirth, existence again after our death. This belief was not there in China. This is one of the new concept the Buddhism contributed towards Chinese. Then the cause and effect or the karmic forces, they never had clear understanding of cause and effect. But they strongly believe that there is some sort of supernatural power above and transformed into gods. So when Buddhism was introduced, they accepted, because they found out there are some new ideas that they have never learned before. After that they developed this, but they did not give up their traditional belief and customs and certain superstitious ideas. And later, this has become a Chinese Buddhism. Entirely different from the religion which was originated in India. Then China has introduced Buddhism to Korea. They too had Confucian's teachings. When Buddhism was prospering in China and Korea, Confucianists and Taoists could not tolerate, just like Brahmins in India who could not tolerate Buddhism. And 2-3 times when you read history, you can see how they tried to destroy Buddhism in China and Korea. They have done that. There are so many Buddha images in Korea. You can see heads here and there in the museum. They say destroyed by Confucianists. Just like in India, Brahmins have destroyed so many things. Even then, from time to time, Buddhism become the major religions. Then China has influence to accept Koreans also, Buddhism as their religion. Then Koreans have introduced this to Japan. Now when you study the differences, Chinese Buddhism, Korean Buddhism and Japanese Buddhism, there are a lot of differences based on their culture, their traditional belief and superstitious ideas. Now let us go to Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand. Two schools, divided into two schools, and these three countries practice Theravada Buddhism, introduced as original teachings of the Buddha. But when you study the way how they practice Buddhism, even in Sri Lanka, Burma and Thailand, you can see a lot of differences, new practices, new belief in the name of Buddhism, which we cannot find in the Buddha's teaching. Then what about in Mongolia, Tibet, Assam, Sikkim, Bhutan and Siberia? I have been to Siberia also. To me, after studying the basic teachings of the Buddha, when I observe, I feel actually that they practice entirely a different religion, not Buddhism. According to their way of thinking, belief, way of life, there are many reasons. But it is natural. Every religion that which exists, let us take Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, same problem. they had to face. Because the human mind changed the basic concept of religion according to their way of thinking and facilities. Later, they developed, introduced religion for their personal gain. Actually speaking, 75% of all these followers of existing religions introduce their religion for personal gain, for worldly power, or material gain, political power, or authority. They use religion as a weapon, because religion is a very sensitive issue. So in the name of religion, what we are doing today, we attack and criticize and condemn other religions and glorify that our religion is the best. But if we look at and study unbiasedly, there is nothing very much that we can contribute or to point out that we are far better than the others. Of course, there are certain qualities, certain talents. You can see certain good qualities and talents amongst Christians, amongst Muslims, which we cannot find amongst our Buddhist community. Their enthusiasm and their unity, although they have differences, we cannot find amongst the Buddhist community. The main reason is Buddhism is some sort of individualism. It is true. That means I try to find out my own salvation, and you try to find out your own salvation. So you can disregard others. But this advice was given by the Buddha only for our final salvation. That means we cannot gain our final salvation from another person through the influence of Buddha or God or anybody in this world. We had to work for that individually. Another person cannot work. I cannot work for you. You cannot work for me for that final salvation. But while we are living here, there are many things we had to organize, introduce, and we had to work to support each other. Our mutual understanding, cooperations, assistance gives moral support, inspiration. That is very important. Buddhists and Hindus have not developed this. Then, why do we want to maintain many of these superstitious beliefs, although we are educated? When you analyze scientifically, psychologically, rationally, many things that we maintain as religious belief and practices have no ground to give significance. Just belief and practice. The reason is fear, lack of understanding. And we cling to our traditional belief without analyzing, without understanding. We think it is our duty to practice and respect these traditional beliefs. Otherwise, we feel some sort of insecurity, fear. This is the weakness. Because of this fear, we suspect so many things, then create our own imaginations. Few examples, many things that we introduce as pantang, taboo. Because of fear, we maintain. There are certain days, certain periods that people don't like to visit hospital also. And there are many who do not like to attend funerals. Pantang. There are many who don't like to see a dead body. Scared of dead body. Fear. And there are thousands and one thing we maintain. Because of this fear and suspicion and imagination, if we violate one of these things, we feel uneasiness. Then we experience some sort of sickness and problem. The mind creates. So if we can make up our mind, there is nothing wrong, I don't believe this, then nothing will happen to you. Some of our members who have associated with us for 20 to 30 years, I could manage to break their superstitious belief. What is that? Chinese are very particular about this, that I have not seen amongst other races or nationalities or countries, only Chinese. When one of our family members, either father or mother or somebody, dies in the hospital or somewhere else, they don't like to bring this dead body into their house. Only Chinese. Because of fear. I promise them, nothing will happen to you. Bring the dead body. This is your mother. This is your father who built this house. It is a disgraceful thing for you to keep the dead body of your father outside. Bring inside. They listen to me. They have done everything. Nothing has happened. How can you prove that? To many others, it is the most disgraceful thing. Others pass remark, look at those people. The father who erected this house, when he died, he had no chance to, after his death, to enter into his own house. These are the superstitious beliefs. There will be a day you have to get rid of this. Don't think that you can maintain forever. Then what about the others? They are also human beings. In the Western countries or other countries, nothing. They never grumble. It depends how we believe. So as Buddhists, if we respect Buddhism, we cannot follow that tradition. But not so easy to take out that fear from your mind. After that, if you catch cold next day, you say, oh, because of that. Because we brought the dead body into the house, now we are sick. That is why mind is important. If you have that confidence, nothing will happen. Some others don't like to touch the dead body with the father or mother. This is another disgraceful thing. See that poor mother, how she suffered, crying day and night to look after, to bring up her children. And when that mother died, children are scared to touch her body. Can you imagine? Who introduced these superstitious beliefs? They employ laborers to come and wash and clean and put in the coffin, and they don't want to touch the coffin also. They say bad luck. Not only that, when they keep the body in the coffin and close it, they cannot look at it. They must cut the wall. Are we not disgracing our human dignity, my dear friends? Where is your human intelligence and human dignity? Do you know who introduced this method? Funeral undertakers. You put all your valuable things, jewelries and gold and everything. You say, you cannot look this side. Bad luck. Look at the wall. At that time, they collect everything and put in their pocket. When everything is closed, okay, come. You never think. When I visited certain funerals, I advised them. Some of them, of course, reluctantly listen to me. But their faces are not very happy. They fear. Then, let us take a life of an arahant or saint or the Buddha. There you cannot find any dogmas, any superstitious belief. Why? To them, evil spirits, ghosts, devils, never come and disturb them. Because they have no fear in their mind. Mind is completely pure. If there is no fear and no greed, no craving, no selfishness, that is why in the Buddha's teaching, you cannot find any of these beliefs completely free, pure mind. One day, when the Buddha was preaching, then suddenly he had a sneeze. Then one of the monks, disciples, at once say, long life to the Buddha. This is a traditional belief. Then the Buddha says, stupid man. What has I got to do with this my life? This is natural. See the Buddha's attitude. Another person came and asked, when is the full moon day? Because I want to observe 8 precepts. Then the Buddha says, Suddhasave sada phaggu suddhas uposatho sada. If the mind is ready, if the mind is pure, every day is a full moon day for that man. So why do you want to wait or choose one particular day to observe your precept? You can observe the precept at any time when your mind is ready. This is the Buddha's attitude. Of course, we have fixed a date for our convenience. We cannot say it is wrong. Then, a traditional belief that people had in India at that time, even today, when they go and take holy bath in certain rivers, holy rivers, they believe that all the sins that they have committed will be washed away. The Buddha wanted to joke, and how he ridiculed. In Anguttara Nikaya, you can see what the Buddha says. After committing evils, you go and take holy bath in that particular river. In that case, all those fishes, turtles who live in the water, every day they wash away their sins. Then another person who wanted to start some sort of business, he was waiting for an auspicious time. Many astrologers told him it's very difficult to find out a suitable date within this period. You have to wait for some time. Meanwhile, another person started the same business and he is prospering. Now he had no chance to start this business. Then came and reported to the Buddha actually what has happened to him. Then in the Buddhist Jataka story, you can see this. Nakhattang patimanentang attho balang upechaka. Attho atthassa nakhattang kinkarisanti taraka. You can see this in my book, What Buddhists Believe. There's one chapter, Buddhism and Astrology. I did not deny the astrology. Buddhism cannot reject astrology. But the Buddha's advice is not to become slaves to astrology. If you know how to develop your mind, you can topple the influence of planetary system through your mental energy. If you keep quiet, then you succumb to this cosmic energy. So the meaning of this saying, foolish people always wait for an auspicious time to start their business or their work. But if the mind is energetic, if correct understanding is there, enthusiasm is there, that is the most auspicious time to start your business. Kinkarisanti taraka. What those stars can do for you if your minds are strong and energetic. You can see the Buddha's attitude. These are the reasons why intellectuals respect the Buddha's teaching. No superstitious idea. He has given due credit to man's intelligence to maintain human dignity, behave as real human beings without maintaining such silly ideas. So we are not practicing the Buddha's teaching, but we practice Buddhism. In Buddhism we can find all these practices. That is why it is necessary for us to learn what the Buddha taught. In the name of Buddhism, in different schools of Buddhism, monks, scholars, masters and gurus and teachers from time to time introduce so many practices and beliefs which the Buddha has rejected, refuted in his teaching. When you read Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Brahmajala Sutta, you can see how he has rejected so many superstitious beliefs. But later, many of these religious Buddhist schools again introduce for their own benefit, to influence others, or we can say to promote Buddhism, but not the Buddha's teaching, to promote Buddhism. Now what others are doing to promote their religion? Do they really preach and practice what the founders of their religion have advised them to do? One example. Christian missionaries are demonstrating everywhere, and testimony, one by one, they come and introduce. You know, when I was a Buddhist or a Hindu, my business was very, very poor, become a failure. After that, I became a Christian, started to pray to God. See, now my business is prospering. Are they not contradicting to the basic teachings of Christianity? What does the Bible say? Jesus has said, the difficulty of a rich man to go to heaven, just like a camel trying to go through the eye of a needle. Then how can they say they have become rich because they are good Christians? Contradict to their basic teaching. Again, they come and introduce and announce. Formerly I was a Buddhist. I had that sickness. I prayed to Buddha. I have taken all sorts of medicines. There was no cure. I became a Christian. I started to pray. Now I am completely cured. But there is nobody to ask this question. Amongst the followers of Christian religion, for generations, more than 1,000 years, have been praying and worshipping to God and Jesus. And why do they suffer from all sorts of sicknesses? Why does God allow them to suffer? And why it is necessary for him to cure few Buddhists and few Hindus? This is called monkey tricks. How they influence others. Is that the way to introduce a religion? Buddhists never practice this kind of thing to bluff others, mislead others in the name of religion. Because we don't want to drag others into Buddhism. Allow them to practice their own religion. We don't want to disturb them. This is the uniqueness, beauty in the Buddha's teaching. And we never think that all those non-Buddhists are sinners or go to hell. There is no ground for us to say like that. If they are good, if they don't commit evil, if they don't disturb others, we regard them as religious people. Their personal religious label is not important to us. Why is it necessary for us to give another label to others? Now, I have been conducting this religious talk for the last 25 years. I know almost every day at least few Christians and few Hindus or some others come and attend. I know they are not Buddhist. I never ask them, why not you become Buddhist? It is not necessary. Mr. Nehru, Prime Minister of India, he was a born Hindu, Brahmin. He has done so much for Buddhism. Whenever he writes books, he talks about Buddhism, Buddhist culture, Buddhist history, and Buddha. When he gives public talk in the United Nations, he gives quotation from the Buddha or how to introduce peace, harmony in this world. He said, here in this world today we have only two choices. If we want to work for the destructions of the mankind, we had to follow the nuclear weapons. If we want to maintain peace and happiness in this world, we had to follow the Buddha. He made this statement at the United Nations. Now this is the way how understanding people appreciate Buddhism. So, one day somebody asked this question. You have done so much for Buddhism, but still you did not say that you have embraced Buddhism. Then he laughed. Now, is it necessary for me to announce that I embraced Buddhism? Can't you understand my attitude, my mentality, my way of thinking through my writing and what I have done? For what purpose? If I don't like Buddhism, why should I spend so much of my time? It is not necessary to announce that I embrace Buddhism. This is the real Buddhist spirit. So, I have given few reasons how far that we maintain our superstitious belief and the reasons. Although I advise you, I ridicule you, I know the difficulty that you have to get rid of these beliefs. You must have very solid knowledge and understanding. Otherwise, you feel some sort of insecurity feeling. During May 13, a well-known family in Kuala Lumpur, his wife died. And they had to keep the dead body for many days because of the emergency curfew. And they have sent a military truck for us to go and attend the funeral. Very simple way they have done their funeral. When everything was normal, certain monks visited him and frightened. You have not given due rites. You have not done real offering to your departed lady. You had to face a lot of problems. If you are not going to perform this ceremony for 1 week, you have to spend about $10,000. But this man is a well-educated man. He came to see me and told me what those monks told him. Then I told him, you are an educated man. You can understand what is right and what is wrong. I advise you not to spend even $1 for this unnecessary thing. Nothing will happen to you. If you want to do anything in memory of your departed wife, you can spend few $100s to print a booklet. He accepted my advice. He has done only that much. Still they are living, nothing has happened to them. Because there is nobody to guide people. Many people are innocent. So others come and take the advantage of this ignorance. Superstitious ideas and dogmas are very good field, very soft ground for cunning religious people to come and dig very easily. It is a gold mine to those cunning religious people. They create more fear in their mind. Then, because of that fear, they may spend even $100,000 for unnecessary things. If they use this money in the name of the departed one to relieve others' sufferings, hunger, sicknesses, there are various ways how to educate others. Very meaningful, and there is nobody, the follower of any religion, appreciate. Even those who have no religion also appreciate. However, time has come for us to, if we cannot get rid of them, at least to minimize. Then slowly, you can forget. At once you cannot drop, I know, because of the fear. Mostly ladies. They must have something. Because they have some sort of insecurity feeling. Feminine and masculine genders. A lot of differences. Now, assume in a house there are 10 ladies. If any thieves enter into that house, or if any disturbance is there, what they say, what a pity, not a single man here in this house. But there are 10 ladies. And there you can see the difference. That is why they are known as weak sex. It is natural. Because the man's masculine qualities, the woman always depends on man, although they fight for equal rights. Yes, it is not nice to discriminate. But there are certain things, natural things, not created by God or man, natural differences. You cannot change these things. They are the ones who are very particular about so many rites and rituals and worshipping and offerings. Otherwise, they cannot satisfy. They feel some sort of uneasiness or insecurity feeling. All are not scientists, psychologists, to analyze and understand things properly. So that is why we maintain the Buddha tried his best to wipe out many of those superstitious beliefs, but people are not ready to accept. They need. The more they become selfish, the more they develop their craving for existence, craving for pleasure, the more they develop their fear. Then they want to perform so many things for their own precaution, protection. So among all the other living beings in this universe, human beings are the only living beings who pray and worship. Others have no idea about worshipping and praying. And why do they perform too much worshipping and praying and offering? Do you think just because they are intelligent? It is not intelligence. Human beings have more craving for existence. Other living beings, some of them have no idea about. Human beings have more craving for pleasure. Others occasionally experience little bit of pleasure, after that they forget it. But we, throughout our life, we organize everything for us to enjoy our life, pleasure. Therefore we want to live a long life, to enjoy more. That is why we like to pray, asking the Buddhas or God or any other supernatural living beings to protect us. Just now I told you, Arahantas and the Buddhas and saints never pray to anybody. They respect, but don't worship also. They respect. Because they haven't got that craving for existence, craving for pleasure, no more in their mind. To them, this physical body is a real nuisance and burden. They can understand how they suffer and how our life has become slaves to physical body. Physical body is one thing, life is another thing. So we spent our valuable life to look after this physical body, to maintain, to wash and clean and feed and support, again to suffer. Then that life cry and worry. When the physical body is sick, life never becomes sick. There is no sickness for the life. When the physical body suffers from various sicknesses, then the life experiences the pain. Then create worries, thinking, I may die, because I don't want to die. I want to enjoy. But the physical body is very ungrateful. We know how much time we devote to look after, to beautify, to decorate, to maintain health, energy. But this physical body gives so much trouble. This is the way how they analyze. But we cannot analyze in that way because of that craving. But this craving also natural. But we should not justify, say, oh, it is natural. Because many of those natural things are not good things. Bad things are also natural. So we cannot justify. Otherwise you can say our craving, our anger, our jealousy, all these things are natural. Yes, they are natural. But they create enormous troubles and pains and problems and difficulties. Many of those natural things. So the understanding of this difference between our physical body and our life can solve so many problems. After that, there is no reason for us to become slaves to our physical body. We decorate, we cleanse and wash our body. How many times a day? But how many minutes do we spend to cleanse our minds? Every day we pollute our mind. Just like our physical body, you can see dust and dirt and all sorts of things accumulate, so we want to cleanse. In our minds also we accumulate so much dirt. Every time when we develop jealousy, we pollute it. Purity of the mind. When we create anger or selfishness in our mind, we pollute the purity of the mind. We have to cleanse this mind. We cannot clean this mind by worshipping and praying. This is the thing that many religionists could not understand. They believe that they can do everything by worshipping and praying and offering. The Buddha is the only teacher who said, all these things are external activities. You can do all these things by maintaining all the dirty, wicked, cruel ideas in your mind. There is no purity. Just because you pray so many times a day, there is no ground for us to say that you are religious. All your anger, jealousy, grudge and selfishness still remain in your mind. You pray for you to live long life, to enjoy your life, only for that purpose. That means you develop more selfishness. Is that the religious way of life? You can see the real nature of the Buddha's teaching. If you know how to analyze unbiasedly, reduce your selfishness for a short while. Think unbiasedly, then you can understand. Today you cannot see things through proper perspective because of selfishness. So, all our imagination, superstitious ideas, dogmas, we maintain because of this. So many religions breeds them, develop them. The more they develop these superstitious ideas, the more they can make use of them. introduce so many practices to gain more income through their followers. So, there is no reason whatsoever for us to face unhealthy religious competition in this world today. Because the main purpose of religion, any religion, is to cultivate man's way of thinking and to build up the character, way of life, to be more cultured, more civilized, more reasonable. So every religion talk about this thing. Then why do they want to drag followers of others into one particular religious group, if all are working for this? This clearly shows they are working for something else. They say, oh, we have love, we have kindness towards you, we pray for you. All those who come and talk like this are real cunning people. What sort of love, what sort of kindness that they cultivate, we cannot understand. Because all their promises are after your death. So no complaint. Nobody to come and complain. They know this very well. So we don't want to introduce religion, introduce Buddhism in that way. That is why others say Buddhists are not active. If you also visit houses and frighten people, if you follow your religion, definitely you go to hell. Come and accept this religion. Then the Buddha will send you to heaven. But we never bluff people in this way. That is not the correct way to introduce a religion. Because religion is a free choice. To accept according to our own conviction and understanding. Since people cannot understand things properly, we try to educate them. Preaching, teaching, and writing books, and organizing certain religious activities to educate others. Should not go beyond that. In fact, religionists have done a lot of damages to their basic religion, introduced by their religious teachers. They introduce religion as a worldly way of life. No spiritual development, no mental purification, no wisdom. Then where is religion? There are many in this world who have no religion. We can find in them certain good qualities, honesty, kindness, understanding, knowledge, wisdom also we can find in them. To me, they are more religious than those who pray 100 times a day. They maintain human values and they don't introduce, they don't discriminate jealousy, enmity and grudge toward the followers of another religious group. And what these religionists are doing today, they harbor jealousy, hatred towards others, condemn and accuse. Is that the attitude of religious people? So we regard all these activities and belief and practices as superstitious belief, no meaning. When we analyze unbiasedly. Even in those so-called Buddhist practices also, just now I told you, when you visit certain temples, there is nothing for you to learn. You may get fed up. The certain things that they introduce and practice and advise you also to follow disgrace human dignity. Temples. How many temples are there in this country? But how many places are there for you to go and learn something? To be good, to do good, to gain knowledge and wisdom, how many places are there? In fact, they create more confusion. They imbue, they inject more superstitious ideas into your mind in those temples. When I was in Japan, I met so many young people, university students. They said, actually we have no religions. Formerly, we belonged to Buddhist families, and when we visit Buddhist temples, we found out there is nothing for us to appreciate or to learn. So we have stopped. No meaning at all. When I was in Russia, Mongolia, young people told me, actually we are proud to say that we have no religion. But still our grandmother or grandfather, still they pray. People have misled them because they never had the chance to learn real religion. They have seen all those practices in the temple, what those monks and nuns and others are doing and introduce. There is no Buddhism in many of those practices. That is why political ideologies indoctrinated in many Buddhist countries, and Buddhism is completely toppled. No more. But nothing wrong with Buddhism and the Buddha's teaching. China, Mongolia, Tibet, then Cambodia, Vietnam, South Korea, Buddhist countries. What happened to the Buddhism in those countries? What is the reason? Not only Buddhism, Christianity also in the West, also toppled. They were misled by those religionists, the way how they practice their religion. Too much superstitious ideas, rites and rituals and ceremonies, and wasted so much valuable property in the name of religion for nothing. Poor people are suffering without food, without clothing, without shelter. Here people are burning thousands and millions of things in the name of religion. How long can we maintain this kind of religion? That is why the communists could manage to indoctrinate all those young people and destroy all those things. The image of Buddhism is distorted. That's why I'm telling you, time has come for us to change many of those practices and beliefs. Otherwise, same thing will happen in the other part of the world. Then the Buddhism may remain only in the museum, only in the history book, in time to come. I think it's enough, isn't it? Not nice to scold too much, isn't it? So the next Friday, what are the evidences to prove that rebirth is true? Also you can, because many people still cannot understand whether we have living example without depending on books. So we can discuss this coming Friday, whether it is true or not. After our death, whether there will be another life or not. Oh yes, Sunday morning, Tibetan Lama Rinpoche will be coming here to give a talk about 9:30 to 10:15. Then about 200 teachers will be coming here, the Teachers' Day. So I had to give a talk to that group. The subject is Sattha Deva Manussanang, the teacher of gods and men, the Buddha, the subject. There will be 2 talks this Sunday morning. Akasattha ca Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkhantu Loka Sasanang Devo Vassatu Kalena Sastha Sampatti Hetu Ca Pito Bhavatu Loko Ca Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idang Go Nyati Nang Hotu Sukhita Huntu Nyatayo Himina Punya Kammena Mame Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Pattiya Sa